Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the News Today edition of 15th and 16th of March. My name is Anuj and I will be taking today's session. In today's session, we will be covering 4 main news and 8 quick update. In the first main news, we will be covering about the IRNSS 1F. In this news, we will be covering about atomic clock and the NAVIC system. Then we will be covering about the food safety reform which have been notified by the government. Then we will be covering about the regional rural bank as the standing committee on finance have recommended ways to improve the functioning of RRBs. Then in the last main news, we will be covering about the India's manuscript heritage as Ministry of Culture launched a nationwide survey to map India's manuscript heritage. After that, we will be covering 8 quick update and there is no place or personality in news for today. This is the brief about today's session. Let us start with the first news. So what is the first news and what is the context of the first news? That you can see here. So the atomic clock which was there on the ISRO's IRNSS 1F have stopped functioning. So what was this stop for? What is this NAVIC system? That we will be covering in this news. And it is related to paper 3 where syllabus talks about science and technology development and their application. After this news, we will be solving the PYQ related to this news and we will be focusing more on the prelims PYQ as the prelims is approaching. So let us begin the discussion with the first main news. So here, what is the development? So there was 7 satellite part of IRNSS. In that, the 6th navigation satellite 1F which was launched as the part of Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, that is IRNSS, of the space segment clock, atom clock have stopped functioning. So its payload that included a highly accurate rubidium atomic clock, which is a critical component for providing the navigation system or the navigation service, is or have stopped functioning. So we will be covering what are these atomic clock, why they are so important, and first of all, what is this Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System? Okay, now you might be hearing about the Iran and the USA war, where USA is using its navigation system, that is GPS. Iran is dependent on the navigation system of China, that is BUDU. Then we have other navigation system, global navigation system, GLONASS of Russia, Galileo of European Union. So these are the 4 major global navigation systems. And India have a regional navigation system by the name Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, which is now known as NAVIC. Okay. Let us understand about NAVIC and the atomic clock. So first of all, how we require, what are the requirement to calculate a location of a person? Suppose someone is standing here. So there are 4 things which are required to calculate it: x-axis, y-axis, z-axis and time. That is basic requirement in navigation. So for that, suppose you might have solved maths equation in your 9th or 10th class. Suppose there is one variable, you require one equation. If there are 2 variables, x and y, then the requirement will be of 2 equation. Similarly, if the variables are 4, there will be requirement of 4 equation. That means the basic necessity for required in the navigation system is of 4 satellites. Okay, then only we can calculate the x position, y position, z position and the time. That is the basic aspect of the navigation. Now let us understand about navigation with Indian constellation, that is NAVIC. So here it is an independent regional navigation satellite system which is being developed by ISRO, and it was designed with these 7 satellite, although ISRO have sent more satellite because some of the satellite was not settled in the orbit or there was some issues. So it was basically designed with the 7 satellite and with the network of ground station. In those 7 satellite, 3 was in the geostationary orbit. That means at the height of 36,000 from the earth and aligning with the equator, that is geostationary. And out of 7, 4 satellites were there in the geosynchronous orbit. Here the distance from the earth will be same, that is around 36,000 kilometer, but it won't be directly at the equator. That is the difference between geostationary orbit and the geosynchronous orbit. Okay, and it provided an accurate position information service to the users in India as well as the region extending up to 1500 kilometers from the Indian boundary. So please be clear, it was not for the global purposes, whereas the GPS of the USA or BIDAU of the China or Galileo of EU or GLONASS of the Russia are the global navigation system. This is a regional navigation system. So for functioning of a regional navigation system, there is requirement of 4 minimum satellite, but we have sent the 7 satellite. But out of those 7, now presently only in 3 to 4, or I think in 3, the atomic clock is functioning. That means that the 4 variable will not be solvable and it will be difficult, or the location shown by this system will not be correct. Whereas the GPS has around 30 satellites. And why there are 30 satellites in GPS? First of all, its coverage is large. Then there are other variables as well, such as there can be clouds, there can be Doppler effect, so that the reliability on only 4 satellites should not be there. Then there are other satellites to provide the accurate data. Okay, most of you might have been using the Google Maps, that is using GPS, and that is dependent on the USA's navigation system. We have NAVIC, and you should be aware about other information as well. It was dependent on S band. Now it is including the other bands such as L band. Okay, so this is about NAVIC. Now let us understand about atomic clock and why we are using this atomic clock. So how we calculate time? It was first calculated by pendulum, and now it is calculated by the frequency of quartz at the surface. That means by us. So previously, I think before 1827 or 1927, pendulum was used. Okay, that was the shape of pendulum, and its frequency was used to measure the second or time. But it was not reliable, as it with the change of time, with the change of temperature or the pressure, it would differ. The frequency of pendulum will differ. Then we had quartz. So basically these are some material, when they pass by the electricity, they leave a frequency, and that frequency was used to calculating time. But this was not possible at the level of space, because there is lot of variation in the gravity, temperature as well as the pressure. So we had this atomic clock which marked the time in a very precise way. And how does it work? Let us understand that. You have understood about the pendulum and the quartz functioning. Here it uses the same principle of frequency, and it is ultra precise, space hardened, time kicking device that measures the time by monitoring the resonant frequency by the atomic transition in an element such as cesium, rubidium or hydrogen. Let us understand it by a basic diagram. So it will be the, suppose this is the nucleus of the cesium. Cesium is 133 and this is its orbit. And in the orbit there will be electrons. And to electron to get to the higher orbital level, it will require an energy. So some external form of energy will be provided here, so that this electron will move to the upper energy level, and then that energy will be put out. Then that electron will come back to the same orbit and it will resonate the frequency. By that frequency, time is measured in the atomic clock. So first we were using the pendulums, then now also we are using quartz, but in the space mostly we are using the atomic clocks. Then they are said to gain or lose only 1 second every 10 million years, 100 million years. Whereas the normal watch gain around 1 second in few days for the conventional clock. So this was about the atomic clock. Now let us look at the PYQ related to this news. The PYQ is from the year 2018. Please try to solve along with me. Okay, as solving PYQ is very important aspect for your prelims preparation. The question is, with reference to the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System, IRNSS, consider the following statement. Statement 1. IRNSS has 3 satellites in the geostationary and 4 satellites in the geosynchronous orbit. We have learnt about this and it is a correct statement. Then IRNSS covered the entire India, true. Then about 5,500 kilometers beyond India's border. No, we have covered this. It is around 1,500 kilometers. Then India will have its own satellite navigation system with full global coverage. It is only a regional navigation system. So the third statement is also incorrect. That's why answer will be A1 only. There is one mains PYQ as well which is directly related to this news from the year 2018. The question is, why is the Indian Regional Navigation Satellite System needed and how does it help in navigation? A direct question from the news we have discussed. Now let us move to the second main news for today, and the second news for today is regarding the reforms in the food safety. In this news we will be covering about FSSI. What are the changes which have been brought in and why these changes have been brought in, and then we will be solving one direct PYQ which is related to FSSAI. That question is little bit tricky, so please listen to the news discussion very carefully, and it is related to paper 2 where syllabus talks about the important aspect of governance. So let us first discover the development. So FSSAI have notified the food safety and standard licensing and registration of food businesses amendment regulation 2026 to improve the ease of doing business in the food businesses. So previously it was said that it is very difficult to get permission to open a restaurant, then to get a gun. So more permissions were needed to open a restaurant rather when compared to the gun. That's why to bring down the regulations and to improve ease of doing business, these changes or these reforms have been brought in by FSSAI. And it amend the food safety and standard licensing and registration of food business regulation of 2011 under the Food Safety and Standard Act of 2006. This act is very important. Okay, and it is based on the recommendation of a high level committee on the non financially regulatory reforms which was constituted by Niti Aayog. Let us look into the news and understand what are the changes which have been brought in and what is the food safety regulation in the India. First of all, the Food Safety and Standard Act of 2006. It is an overarching regulation on the food safety establishing FSSAI. That means that FSSAI was established under this act, and it was established in the year 2008 as a primary food safety authority. Okay, whenever there is a news regarding food adulteration, you might have heard that what FSSAI is doing. So this is the primary function of the FSSAI, that is food safety. Then we have Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is the administrative ministry for the implementation of FSSAI. Please be very clear that this body is an autonomous body under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Based on this information only, there was a PYQ. Previously, before this act was there, the food regulation or the food safety was not with any autonomous body. Okay, so that was the question. Then Food Safety and Standard Regulation of 2011 contained the labeling requirement and standard for packaged food, permitted food activities and microbiological requirements. So basically, if you are buying the packed food, you will see the labels and the information regarding the nutrition that is taken care by the Food Safety and the Standard Regulation of 2011. Then there are other aspects of as well, that is Food Safety Connect mobile app, Eat Right India initiative. So that are the initiative under FSSAI. Okay, so this was about the food regulation in India. Now let us move forward and look at the key provision of the reforms. So the reforms are regarding ease of doing business in the food businesses. So first of all, they have talked about the perpetual validity. So before, suppose I am a restaurant, I have to renew my license after 1 to 5 years. But now there will be a perpetual validity to the license, that is that there will be the safety audits as well as the annual turnover, but the food businesses don't have to get the license again and again. Then there is increased turnover threshold for the simple registration. Before, the food businesses above the 12 lakhs were required for the registration. Now this threshold have been increased to 1.5 crores. And for licensing, they have divided by the 50 crores. So the restaurant or the food businesses which have businesses of less than 50 crore, they will require a permission from the state government. And the businesses which have more than 50 crore, they will require permission or license from the central government. Then regarding the regulation of street vendors, ठेलों का खाना. So here they are saying that the vendor which are registered with the municipal corporation or the town vending committees under the Street Vendor Protection of Livelihood and the Regulation of the Street Vending Act of 2014 will be automatically registered with the FSSAI. So they don't have to re-register them with the FSSAI. If they are registered with the municipal corporation or the town vending machine under the Street Vendor Protection of Livelihood and Regulation of the Street Vending Act of 2014, they will be automatically regulated or the automatically registered with the FSSAI. So these are the key reforms that are there for improving the ease of doing business. Now let us move forward and look at the PYQ, which is directly related to this news. Please read the question and try to solve it. You can pause the video here. So the question is, consider the following statement. The Food Safety and Standard Act of 2006 repealed the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act of 1954. So it is an correct statement. Then the Food Safety and Standard Authority of India, that is FSSAI, is under the charge of Director General of Health Services in the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Although this statement seems correct, but this FSSAI is not under the directly charge of Director General of Health Services as the part of Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Although this FSSAI is under the administrative control of Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, but it is an autonomous body. Before the Act of 2006, this food safety was under the direct control of Director General of Health Services, which is there under the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So that means the second statement is not correct. So answer will be A1 only. Now let us move to the next news, and next news is related to the Regional Rural Bank. In this news, we will be covering about the recommendations which have been given by the Standing Committee on Finance, and we will be covering about regional rural banks, and it is related to paper 3, economic development. And then we will be solving 2 prelims PYQ related to regional rural bank. First of all, let us look at the development. Here the development is that the Standing Committee on Finance have highlighted the successful completion of the structural consolidation of regional rural banks. So basically there was a lot of regional rural bank. Regional rural bank have started in the year 1975. So this year, last year, they have completed 50 years. That's why this become important for your prelims examination. So here, there was a lot of regional rural bank and they were not able to perform good. So what government thought that we will bring the number of regional rural bank to 1 to every state. That means there will be only 1 regional rural bank for every state, and it was recommended by the Vyas committee, and government have started the amalgamation. So we are at the 4th stage or the 4th phase of amalgamation. This amalgamation started in the year 2006 on the basis of the Dr. Vyas committee. Okay, so that was the development, and now RRBs, Regional Rural Bank, have consolidated from 43 to 28 recently. Okay, this is the development. Now let us understand about the regional rural banks. First of all, they were established in 1975. I think 3 or 5 regional rural bank was established, and there was a act which was brought in the year 76, that was Regional Rural Bank Act of 1976. Even this consolidation power or amalgamation power is from this act, that is Regional Rural Bank Act of 1976. And here the objective of Regional Rural Bank is to develop the rural economy by providing credit and other facilities, particularly to the small and marginal farmers and the agricultural laborers. And how is their shareholding? So suppose this is the pie. 50% shareholding is by the central government, and 15% is by the state government. And one of the public bank will be sponsoring regional rural bank, that will have 35% shareholding. So that is the shareholding for a regional rural bank. And in the year 2015, by the amendment of the Regional Rural Bank Act, amendment of 2015, they were allowed to take money from the government and the sponsoring bank. Please be very clear, when we will be talking about the reforms, they are talking about IPO. That means they are taking money not only from the government and the sponsoring bank, but from the public itself, or the public. That is there in the recommendation that we will be covering. But please be clear, there was a change in the requirement for the funding of the regional rural banks. Then about the regulation. So they are considered the scheduled commercial bank. That's why they are regulated by the RBI, Reserve Bank of India. But they are supervised by NABARD. NABARD supervise other banks as well, such as Cooperative Bank, but the regulation is with the RBI. Then they have to meet the priority sector lending as well. Okay, and they have to give around 75% of their outstanding advance for the priority sector lending. Okay, this is about the Regional Rural Bank. Now let us move further and look at the recommendations which are given by the standing committee. First, mitigate the sectoral risk in the education loan. So education loan is one of the area under the priority sector lending. There are other areas as well, such as agriculture, renewable energy, and other sector. But education is also part of the priority sector lending. What is happening here is that the funds given by the Regional Rural Bank for the education as the part of priority sector lending, they are becoming as the NPAs, non-performing asset, and the number have risen to 13.8%. So the recommendation is that they should fully leverage their inclusion in the Credit Guarantee Fund scheme for education loan. Under this scheme, the central government gives a guarantee for the education loan availed by the student without any collateral security up to, I think, 7.5 lakhs. So suppose I am a student and I am taking loan from the Regional Rural Bank for my education, and I am not providing any collateral. So under this scheme, if I am not able to pay my loans, the central government will pay the loan. That is the basic meaning of this recommendation. Then they have recommended to deploy the AI driven technology so that they can better manage all the functions which are related to banking in the Regional Rural Bank. Then they have also recommended about the initial public offering. They are saying that they should think about IPOs, and the government shall guide highly profitable RRBs towards IPOs to attract the market capital, so that they don't only depend on the government and the bank which is sponsoring them. So these are the key recommendation. Now let us look at the PYQs related to this news. First PYQ from the year 2013 and the second PYQ is from the year 2019, and same question or similar question was also asked in the year 2012 prelims examination. So let us solve the 2013 PYQ. Question is, which of the following grants or grant direct credit assistance to the rural household? The meaning of the question is, from which banks the rural people can directly go and take the loan? First, the regional rural bank, they can take. Land development bank, they can take. But they cannot directly go to the NABARD, that is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. Have you ever heard that someone is going to NABARD to take the loan? Okay, that is not possible. So this is not correct. So the answer will be C, 1 and 3. Now let us come to the 2019 prelims question. The question is, the service area approach was implemented under the purview of. It was implemented under the lead bank scheme. Under lead bank scheme, some banks, that might be the public service bank, the public bank or the regional rural bank, will provide services to the specific area so that the financial inclusion in that area get improved. That was the aim of the lead scheme. This is the question from the year 2019, and there was same question in the year 2012, but the twist in that question was they have asked about the what is the lead bank scheme, and this was given as the option. The question was given as the option and the option was as the question. So this is about the 2019 PYQ. Now let us move forward and discuss the fourth and the last main news for today. The last main news is about India's manuscript heritage, and the context here is that the Ministry of Culture has launched a nationwide survey to map the India's manuscript heritage. It is part of GS paper 1 where syllabus talks about Indian culture. Let us discuss this news, and the development is that this survey aims to identify manuscript nationwide and create a national digital repository on the portal of Gyan Bharatam mission. Okay, so they are creating a national digital repository. Let us first understand about the meaning of manuscript. What is the meaning of manuscript? So it is a handwritten composition. It is very important that it is a handwritten composition on paper, bark, cloth, metal, palm leaf or any other material which is dating back at least 75 years, that has significant scientific, historical or aesthetic value. That means they have knowledge content. Suppose there is a book which is printed before. Can we call it as manuscript? No, that cannot be called as manuscript, because here the important aspect is that it should be handwritten. Okay. Let us move further and understand about the significance of mapping manuscript. First of all, they help in cultural revitalization. And how they help in this? Because we have a Gilgit manuscript, which is the oldest manuscript of India, and it have told about the India's Buddhist diplomacy, which have connected India with the East Asian countries. So this shows the importance of our cultural heritage. Then it revived the Indian knowledge system. That might be yoga, that might be Ayurveda. Okay, and here example is Bakshali manuscript. It is the third and fourth AD manuscript, and it contains the reference of earliest use of zero. Basically, there are around 70 birch where there are mathematical equation in Sanskrit, and here there is reference to the earliest use of zero. What is the name of the manuscript? That is Baksali manuscript. I think it is there in Oxford now. Then it help in also curbing the intellectual piracy, as it map and prevent the smuggling of the undocumented manuscript and exploitation of the traditional knowledge system. For example, the turmeric was patented in USA for its medical purposes. But turmeric for its medical purposes is used in India from a long time. Then that patent was revoked. So that's why such type of mapping is very important. Now let us move further and discuss about the Gyan Bharatam mission. So it was announced in the Union Budget of 2025-26. That means last year budget. And it is the nationwide initiative to preserve, digitalize and disseminate the India's vast manuscript heritage. India has one of the largest manuscript heritage of the ancient time. Then it is under the Ministry of Culture, and it is a central sector scheme. That means total funding is taken care by the central government, and its origin is it is a restructured version of National Mission of Manuscript of 2003, and it have 5 pillars, one of which is mapping and recording the manuscript, then conserving the manuscript, digitalizing and protecting the manuscript, decoding the ancient manuscript, and studying and sharing knowledge of the manuscript. I think the meaning of the words are clear from their name or from the word itself. First of all, mapping and recording. We have to map and record the manuscript. Second, we have to conserve the manuscript so that they are not destroyed. Then we have to digitalize and protect them in the digital format as well as in the original format. Then there is about the decoding of ancient manuscript, that what is their meaning and what is their significance. Then studying and sharing the knowledge, that the study of that manuscript and sharing the knowledge that is there in that manuscript. We have other initiatives as well for the conservation, and the other initiative for preserving the manuscript are, first one is Gyan Setu. It is a nationwide AI innovation challenge which is part of Gyan Bharatam mission, and it encourages the startups and students to harness AI for the digitalization of manuscript. Then we have the Antiquities and Art Treasurer Act of 1972. So under this act, it prohibits the export of any manuscript which is older than 75 years without the permission of the central government. Then we have international collaboration as well, such as UNESCO Memory of the World Register. Recently, they have registered about the manuscript of Bhagavad Gita and Natya Shastra of Bharat Muni. These are the international collaboration. So with this, we have completed the main news for today. Now let us discuss the quick update for today. So the first quick update for today is about captive generating plants. And the context here is that the Ministry of Power has notified Electricity Amendment Rule of 2026, which amend the Electricity Rule of 2005 for ease of doing business. And this amendment is majorly related to the captive generating plants. In this news, we will be covering about these plants, what is their meaning and what are the provision regarding them. First of all, the meaning is that the power plants which are established by the companies mainly for their own consumption. Suppose I am a company and I have established a power plant and I am using its powers. Power means the electricity. Then it will be called as the captive generating plant. And they are considered captive if more than 51% of the electricity is used for the own consumption. Second, aggregate ownership of the plant is more than the 26%. And what is its significance? Suppose I am an industry and I am heavily reliable on electricity, then I want stable electricity. And for that stability, I introduced or I make a captive generating plant. Okay, and its origin was there in Electricity Act of 2003 and is also recognized by the National Electricity Policy of 2005. So here basic meaning is important, that what is the meaning of captive generating plant. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about Samridh Gram Phygital Services Initiative. And the context here is that the Ministry of Communication have inaugurated this initiative. In this news, we will be covering about this initiative. So this initiative is under the Department of Telecommunication and it will be in the pilot phase which will be implemented in 3 villages. So it is under the Department of Telecommunication and it is in the pilot phase where it will be implemented in the 3 villages, and it leverages the high speed broadband under the BharatNet to transport the digital connectivity into an integrated platform for delivery of services in the rural areas. Under this, there will be Samriddhi Kendras have been conceptualized as a single window rural service hub which will provide services related to education, health and other. That's why this is an important aspect for e-governance. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the Kharg Island, and it is a place in news which is in dispute, and we have seen that UPSC previously have asked about the places which were there in the disputes. So the context here is that the US have struck Kharg Island, which is considered as the Iran's economic lifeline. Let us look at the map where it is located. So here this is Strait of Hormuz and it is there here. This is Iran, this is Kuwait, this is Bahrain, this is Qatar, this is UAE and this is Oman. This is Gulf of Oman and this is Persian Gulf. The location of this place is very important. So here it lies in Persian Gulf and northwest of the Strait of Hormuz of the Iranian coast. So northwest. Yeah, and it is Iran's oil hub, as approximately 90% of Iran oil is exported from the island. Okay. Let us move to the next quick update which is also related to this news, and that is about the Fujairah port. And the context here is that the UAE Fujairah port was attacked in the recent Iran, US and Israel conflict. So this port is a key shipping hub for the Gulf and the wider region, only multi-purpose maritime facility on the east coast of the UAE. So let us look at the map. So this is UAE and the news is saying that it is at the east coast of the UAE, only major post on the east coast of UAE. So it will be located somewhere here. Okay, let us look at the other facts. It is strategically located 70 nautical miles outside the Strait of Hormuz. So the Strait of Hormuz is here. It is Strait of Hormuz and it is located 70 nautical miles on the east side of the Strait of Hormuz. That is there in the next line. Then there are other ports in the news such as Jebel Ali port of UAE, Haifa port of Israel, and Alpha port of the Iraq. So you should be aware about these ports as they are continuously in the news. There can be a question which will be asking about the ascending or the descending order of these ports from north to south or the south to north. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the nor'westers. The context here is that the nor'westers have induced strong wind and heavy rainfall in the region of Odisha and the West Bengal. In this news, we will be covering about nor'westers. These are the local winds. We have other locals in India as well. Lu, mango sour, coffee showers as well. Please learn about these local winds as well. Here we will be learning about nor'westers. These are severe thunderstorms that originate over eastern and the northeastern part of India during the pre-monsoon season. So they mostly develop near to the Chota Nagpur plateau, which get heated up. And when it get heated up, there will be low pressure, and there will be the incoming of the air from the Bay of Bengal, which carry the moisture, and that will get upward due to the heat in the low pressure area, and that will result in the thunderstorm as well as in the rainfall and the heavy rains by the cumulonimbus cloud. Okay. It produced heavy showers, lightning, thunder, hailstorm, dust storm, squall, dust burst, and sometimes even the tornadoes. In Bengal, they are called as Kal Baisakhi, a calamity of the month of Baisakh, and in Assam, it is known as Bardosila or the Bardoli Chira. And these showers are useful for tea, jute, and the rice cultivation in this region. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about National Mineral Development Corporation. And the context is that Navratna NMDC, which is National Mineral Development Corporation, has become the first mining company in India to produce 50 million tons of iron ore in a single financial year. It is a major achievement. That's why we are covering this Navratna. So it is incorporated in 1958 as Central Public Sector Enterprises, and it is the India's largest producer of iron ore. And when it compared to the world, it produced the cheapest or one of the low cost iron ore. Apart from iron ore, it also explored the various minerals such as copper and limestone, and it is there under the Ministry of Steel, and it is the only organized producer of diamond in India from the Majgavan mines at the Panna, which is there in Madhya Pradesh, and headquarter of which is there in the Hyderabad. Okay, now let us move to the next quick update, and the next quick update is regarding the Kuki and Hamar communities. And the context here is that the Assam government has signed memorandum of settlement with the Kuki and the Hamar militant group. So first of all, these are the militant group, and Kukis belong to the Tibeto-Burman ethnic groups, and they are mostly residing in the Lusai hills, which are there in the Manipur, but they are also found in the other northeastern state except the Arunachal Pradesh and Myanmar and the Bangladesh. Okay, and they have a traditional society which is centered around the village hereditary chief, which is known as Hauso. Okay, this is about the Kukis. Then about the Hamar tribe, it means the north, are a specific ethnic group within the larger Kuki-Jo umbrella. And they are spread mostly in the hills of South Manipur, Mizoram, and Mizoram, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and they are also found in the Myanmar and Bangladesh. So Assam government have signed a memorandum of settlement with Cookies and the Hamar group. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update and the last quick update is about Carnatic music. And the context here is that recently a Carnatic musician is named as the Sangeeta Kalanidhi Award 2026. This is the highest award in the Carnatic music. So Carnatic music is a classical music tradition of South India and one of the two main system of Indian classical music. The other is Hindustani. Please learn about their differences as well. Okay. Hindustani is influenced by the other music tradition as well. Carnatic is the indigenous as well. There are several subtype under Hindustani, but there are not any type under the Carnatic music. So you should be aware about the differences between Hindustani and the Carnatic music. Now let us discuss about this Carnatic music. It is primarily devotional in nature, and there are usage of many instruments such as veena, violin, flute, nadaswaram, mridangam, ghatam, kanjira, and morsing. And its composition are kirti, kirtanam, varnam, padam, javali. And kirti is the most important aspect or the most important of the melodic group of composition. And Tyagraj, Muttuswami, Dikshitar, and Swama Sastri are known as the Trinity of Carnatic music. So this is about the Carnatic music. With this, we have completed the news today session for today. And to read further about the digital current affairs or the current affairs of the Vision IAS, you can visit the digital current affairs website of us, and please solve the question which are visible on your screen. Thank you and all the best for your preparation.